We will record for a few seconds without anything, just so we can get
Hmm.
whatever background noise.
Okay.
Okay. We were talking earlier about giving advice, giving recommendations. And as we record this, it's the first, technically the second day of December 2020. Yesterday was Giving Tuesday. And I don't think we normally think of Giving Tuesday as far as giving advice or giving recommendations or whatever, but it's about giving back, right?
Hmm.
Um, what are your thoughts, yeah, all about giving?
Oh, I got a lot of thoughts about giving. um, for me, the important part about giving is giving appropriately.
Mm,
So whether it's giving a present, like giving gifts, where they say it's the thought that counts. I think that's what is meant by that. And when it comes to giving like advice or recommendations, stuff like that, what's important, the most important part of that, as we were talking in our conversation earlier about this, the most important part of that is giving appropriate advice and not generic advice, which
mm,
brings the listening part in, which is why the listening part is so crucial before you give advice or recommendations or anything like that. You have to really hear out what the situation is,
mm.
ask questions, get a clear picture of where the person is at in their mind. Because if you give generic advice, it'll get brushed off just like, any other generic advice that they've gotten.
Absolutely. And I think that applies whether we're giving advice or giving recommendations or giving a gift. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I sent out a newsletter earlier this week, and Ann and I talked about a couple of things. One, Christmas carols, and one of my favorite Christmas carols is the Little Drummer Boy. And the reason I like the Little Drummer Boy Christmas Carol is because I always resonate with the underdog. And here we have this little drummer boy who doesn't have the gold and the frankincense and the myrrh that the wise men brought.
Mm-hmm.
All he's got is his drum, and he's not even technically giving his drum. He's playing on the drum for, the
Right.
the
He's offering the gift of music.
right. And is that an appropriate gift? Well, one, I like in the carol that he asked Mary, can I play for him?
Mm-hmm.
She says yes. And when we're giving gifts, when we're giving things to others, when we want to ask, is this appropriate? I remember going back to advice, one of the things that I've heard so many times and probably have said a few times is free advice is what you pay for it.
Right. It's worth what you pay for.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but is some advice that really is worth it. And in this newsletter that I sent out, and I'll include a link to that in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is I suggested, that one of the best gifts we can give is the gift of our story,
Mm-hmm.
right? When we share a bit of us, when we share who we are with other people, we're giving something that we can't just go to the store and pick up. We're
Right. It's a
giving
piece of ourselves. Yeah.
that we're not just crossing off the to do item on our task list.
Right.
And how do we give appropriately? because I was actually on a summit last night being interviewed, and we were talking about, when it's appropriate to tell your story, in what manner, and when it might not be appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes a gift appropriate? How do you give an appropriate gift?
I think there's always emotions behind it. I think what matters, my favorite gift that I've ever received was from my friend Patty. She gave me it was a little $5 trinket. It was a charm for a necklace.
Hmm.
It's a tarot card. It's the Ace of Cups. I still carry it. I have it in my purse.
Hmm.
She gave that to me. It's been more than 10 years ago.
Huh, wow.
I don't remember if it was for my birthday or what the occasion was, but she gave that to me the year that I had just started getting into tarot reading and, that more spiritual stuff.
Hmm.
And I had just started getting into it, and I felt like she's not really into that stuff. And I'm not like totally, I know a lot of people that are really into it. And I'm not one of those people, but it was something that I just started exploring and stuff like that. And when she gave me that, it felt to me like she'd been listening.
Hmm.
Even though she's not into it, she knows that's what I was just kind of getting into. And it made me happy. So the gift that she gave me was not about her. It was totally about me.
Hmm.
And I think that's what made it special, is
Yeah.
that it wasn't something that, um, like just to cross me off the list. Oh, I got to pick up a present for her.
Mm-hmm.
It was something that she saw and she's like, oh, she would love this, and that's what made it my favorite gift. And let me give you an example to the contrary. I was dating someone years ago, and for my birthday, I was given a pair of diamond earrings. And I actually said, I returned them. I gave them back and I said, I don't want them because that they're so not me.
Hmm.
Is Why would you look at a pair of diamond earrings and go, wow, that would be perfect for her. Nobody else would be interested in these. That's just perfect for her. Why would you do that? And I felt like it was, this is when I was dating, dating Joyce, and I felt like she wanted to make me feel special. She wanted to, spend a lot of money on me and stuff like that. I think we had just been together like a year or so at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So she was spoiling me, financially and that kind of stuff, which was very sweet. But that's not what I was looking for. I don't shower me with money, don't toss money at me to, think that that's what's going to, you can't buy my love, put it that way.
Right. Yes.
So I gave back a pair of diamond earrings. And I've caught a lot of flack from a lot of people going, what the hell's wrong with you?
But it makes a lot of sense, when it's not given from the heart, as
Mhm.
the charm that was it Patty
Patty,
gave
yeah.
you,
Yeah,
it, and it's more about, look what I gave you.
right.
It's it's not really giving someone something.
Right. I felt like it was like a gift of just spending a lot of money on me. To me, her intentions were good. I get it. She, in her mind, she figured that, if someone spent a lot of money on me, it'd make me feel good.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't in a position to spend a lot of money on her. So I get it. That's where that's where she was coming from. So it was a sweet thought, but that's not what I wanted.
Right. And I think that you make a good point, that there's the giving, and she
Hmm.
very well, as you said, had great intentions.
Right.
But if you can't, for whatever reason, you didn't
Hmm.
receive it that way, you
Right.
know, it it isn't a great exchange.
Right. That brings to mind the love languages. I read
Mm,
the 5 love languages
right.
a few months ago, and that
Sure.
just brings that to mind, is that she has a different love language than I do.
Yeah. What is your love language? I'm curious.
Um, I'm not sure which category it falls under.
Uh-huh.
For me, the best form of showing love to me is to take some stress off of me,
Mm,
whether it's make decisions for me, or, if there's something I'm responsible for, if you take care of it, I love you forever.
yeah.
So for me, that's my favorite, is if I don't have to do it and you'll take care of it, that's awesome.
Sure.
It's one less thing I have to stress about.
Yeah. And I don't remember all 5 of the different love languages. I think that's something like gifts of service or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's acts of service, or some acts of kindness, something like that. Yeah.
Right. And for me, and I, for whatever reason, I know I've done the profile numerous times, but I can never remember which one.
It's hard to decide. Some of them, it depends on the day.
Right. But I know one of the things that means a lot to me is words of kindness, is
Hmm.
and it's oftentimes it's when, like, when I send out my newsletter and people respond with just a nice, even if it's just thanks, I really appreciated that, and I look forward to getting more of these from you.
Yeah.
Just it could just be a couple of words, and but it makes my day because
The acknowledgement.
right.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I agree. I feel the same way about that.
And thinking about my favorite gifts, and I am trying to remember the gifts that have meant a lot to me. And one of the ones that stands out for me is a little art journal that my youngest daughter gave to me a couple of years ago. And it wasn't just an art journal, but it was an art journal that she made herself. And what she did was ask me things like, what are my favorite quotes, and what were my favorite things that happened in the year 2018, and just questions like that. And then from that, she used those as the prompts for the art journal, so I could go in and draw something to
That's
reflect
awesome.
whatever that was. And I'm honest, she gave it to me 2 years ago, and I'm still working on it. But it just means a lot to me because, one, she put a lot of time and a lot of heart into it. And
Hmm.
two, it's not something I can't go pick that up anywhere. You
Right.
know, it was
Yeah, it's specifically designed for you, with you in mind, from a place of giving, not about her.
right. And I think when it comes to story, that is also true, in that,
Hmm.
how do we give or tell or share our story in a way that is a contribution, rather than, just a need to be heard, which,
Hmm.
there are times when we just need to be heard, and, we
Hmm.
need to find the right people to hear us.
Time to vent.
Right. Just,
Yeah.
a venting partner or an accountability partner or
Hmm.
whatever.
Yeah.
But then there are times when our stories are really more of a gift,
Hmm.
when we give the gift of sharing our story with someone. Any thoughts on what makes that possible?
For me, that's a lot of times the stuff that I share online, I'm feeling those emotions anyway. But when I share it online, it's because I want Honestly, because I think everybody should feel as good as I do. I do. I think everybody should feel this good. So
Right.
if I can inspire someone to look at their own story, their own situation, and help them make peace with it, make peace with wherever they are in their journey, um, then I feel like I've given them a gift. Is that I'm helping them make peace with their own journey. And
Mm,
by sharing my own journey, my the reason that I do that is to inspire you to take a look at your own. How can you relate to what I'm feeling or describing or telling you, that kind of stuff? How can you relate to it?
sure.
What time in your life brought you to that feeling? That's why I share the way that I do, and in a lot of detail. I know I get very, very wordy a lot of times. So I've narrowed that down. I've gotten a lot better about that, but I'm still working on it.
So I'm wondering if we might look at it this way. When has someone shared their story with you that has made a big difference? Similar to the charm bracelet or the,
Hmm. For me, anytime a lot of your stories, honestly, a lot of your stories, for example, they're very relatable to me because I listen to your stories and then I think back about for my own, in my own head, like any scenarios where I could relate to you. I think the relatability, that's the part that makes it as valuable as it is.
mhm,
Um,
thank you, first of all.
so I think that through that, you and I have found out we've got a lot more in common than we ever realized.
Right.
As far as the paths we've taken and stuff like that, decisions we've made in our lives and places we've been in our lives within
Sure.
ourselves and in life in general.
Yeah.
So I
And
think,
when I think about the stories that have been shared with me that
mm-hmm,
have been really meaningful, one, like you say, just the rapport that you and I have
mm-hmm,
and the similar points of view we have, particularly on story.
right,
I also think of those times when I felt alone in my journey dealing with whatever I was dealing with, whether that was, a struggle with depression
mm-hmm,
or financial problems or,
right,
um, you know, trying to find my way along my career path or whatever. But
right,
that when people could not just, when they didn't just listen to what I said, but when they heard what I said and were able to contribute something of their own
mm-hmm,
that, where there's the story that they shared showed me that there was possibility, that there was hope. You know, that
yeah,
that when I hear about a speaker who I really admire or appreciate what they've done,
mm-hmm,
and they talk about, how that didn't just happen overnight.
right,
It was something that they have had to invest a lot of time in and,
mm-hmm.
get some coaching around and, you know, put their heart into in order for
Right.
that to
I
happen.
think I think the vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
The vulnerability is what makes it so valuable, is that if I share with you my hard times, whether my hard if my hard times are in the past and I choose to own them and be vulnerable with you and share with you exactly where I was at the time, and let's say I'm talking to you, let's say you're a client and you're still dealing with something. You're still in a lot of pain in regards to something. And I share a story with you where I know I do understand. Sometimes I've actually been wherever you are right now. A lot of times it
Right.
happens to be the case because we attract, like attracts like.
Right.
Um, so I think that helps. That would help you to realize that, first of all, I understand how alone you feel in whatever you're sitting in,
Hmm.
because right now you're stuck in your own head. You're stuck in
Right.
your head. So I'm inviting you into my head for a minute. So come walk in my head for a minute, and so we can walk this together, and you're not alone anymore.
Yeah.
And if you can actually accept that, you can accept me onto your journey, then maybe I can help guide you to where I am now.
Sure.
So, and essentially that's kind of how I look at it when I'm working with clients, is I got from there to here. I want to help show you how I got from there to here.
Hmm.
So, like you said, it's providing hope.
Yeah. Which I think is one of the best gifts that we can give, is the gift of hope, the
Hmm.
gift of that things will work out, that
Yeah.
no matter what you're facing right now, things will work out.
Yeah. That feeling of hopelessness that's the loneliest place you could ever be. Because when you're feeling hopeless, you're just stuck in, excuse my language, you're just stuck in the shit. When you're feeling hopeless, is you feel like you are doomed to this life forever.
Right.
Someone is, they deal with mental health challenges, they think they're going to be on these medications forever, and and they're scared of, what would happen if, and stuff like that. There's all kinds of stuff attached to that.
Right. I even think of, I remember a time when it wasn't, my per se, it wasn't the struggle with depression, wasn't, psychology of it all.
Mm-hmm.
It was that I was in a really good financial career position,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that was as good as it gets.
Right.
And I'm like,
Oh, see, I can totally relate. See how this works?
there's got to be more than this,
Right.
so even when in other people's eyes, looks really good as to where you are,
Right.
but it doesn't feel good where you are.
Mm-hmm.
That, when you hear someone else say, well, I know, like you're just doing,
Right.
I know exactly what you're saying, it's
Yeah.
um, not all that glitters is gold, right?
Right. That's a fitting statement. Yes.
So,
I was actually just thinking, actually, while we were trying to figure out this whole technology thing, it occurred to me, I don't know why this thought just occurred to me. I was thinking about the only thing, oh, time. I was talking about, this will be the first time in a long time that I will be giving my time to someone else,
mm,
because my husband and I are taking this job next week.
right.
And it's been a long time since I've been on someone's payroll where someone else is in charge of my time.
Right.
So I'm really excited about it. I'm really looking forward to it. But it's gonna be some adjustment.
Yes.
So, and I was what the thought that popped into my mind is, really the only thing that we own our time, and we own our emotions.
Hmm. Or as Viktor Frankl said, not necessarily in these words, is
Mm-hmm.
our attitude, about what we're going through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if Viktor Frankl could somehow figure out a way to be in a good place in the middle of a concentration camp,
Yeah,
you know,
right. Yeah.
and figure out, how to survive till the end,
Mm-hmm.
when so many other people literally were dying, and going
They
to
they
terrible,
succumb they succumb to the circumstances.
yeah, whether by their own choice or by the choice,
Right.
by
Right.
not their choice.
Right.
Uh, but so that whatever come what may, if you can find a way to choose your attitude, choose the way that you're looking at things.
Right.
And honestly, that's another way to look at story too, is, what is the story you're telling about
Mm-hmm.
what's going on here?
Right.
There are all kinds of horror stories that we can tell ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the story about the two wolves, right?
Right.
The the angry, mean wolf that's going to eat you up, or the wolf that, is going to guide you and protect you and be by your side, and
Right.
which one of those wolves lasts, survives, which one of the wolves gets bigger and stronger depends
Mm-hmm.
on which one you're feeding. So
Right.
what are the stories that you're feeding yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And since we're talking about giving, what are those stories that you're feeding other people? What are the
Right.
stories that you're putting out there in
Mm-hmm.
the world? So
So in regards to everything you own, um, since we're moving cross country, and originally we were downsizing to move into an RV. So we were already downsizing. I already downsized quite a bit. I still have some more stuff to go through. I still have a little bit more baggage. I have a whole bin full of photos that I haven't yet to go through. I'm schlepping it across the country with me. Um, just because I know that's not going to be it's not a 20-minute project.
yeah, we've
So
been schlepping some of those boxes for a
I'm
long time.
sure. So all the stuff. So what occurred to me as when I first started doing that, I was looking into minimalism and just how stuff carries energy. And
Right.
I totally understand what that means. Because as I got rid of more stuff, the more stuff I got rid of, the more stuff came to me.
Mm.
Well, biggest, shiniest example is when I sold my house, which was the biggest thing that I owned. And it was a storage place for everything else that I owned, in quotes, that I owned.
Right.
When I got rid of that is when Ken came back into my life.
Mm.
So I sold the house and I moved down here to Missouri. Um, and the story goes on, and now we're married. So the journey continues. So
Yeah.
I basically, I see this as I'm still doing the whole RV and traveling and exploring and discovering and all that kind of stuff. I just kind of took a detour to pick up a husband along the way.
Just a small
because
one.
that was also on my mind. I always wanted somebody to share my journey with.
Sure. Yeah.
So it was a manifestation of that. So
Nice.
I'm willing to make a pit stop because the universe says it's your time.
Yeah. And now both of you are downsizing together and
Right.
going off on your own adventure together.
Exactly.
So I'm wondering how, well, that raises an interesting point with regards to giving, is that, there's giving up stuff, giving away stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and giving to people,
Right.
that when we give of ourselves, it can be a win-win-win situation
Right.
where things show up, like for you, a husband,
You're right.
and this journey that you two are setting out on,
Mm-hmm.
that, when we give like that we get more in return, and it
Mm-hmm.
might not, you're not getting a big house, you're not getting, you know, there are tangible physical things that you've
Right.
gotten, and then there are also, experiences and memories and, love and
Mm-hmm.
relationship and so forth. uh, you know, when we invest in ourselves in
Right.
that way, I think, that there that the return can be incredible.
Yeah. Um, so going back to what I was saying about our time and our emotions are the only things that we truly own. Anything else is replaceable.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you can buy, money, you can earn more money, whether you believe it or not, it's out there. If you're the only one standing in your way, we can figure
Right.
that out. We'll talk about that. That's a whole other conversation.
Right.
You can earn more money, you can buy more stuff, you can buy a bigger house, you can, all that stuff you may own. Um, but technically that could also go away at any given point.
Yep.
But your
And
time,
honestly, yeah. And I think of the emotions and the time
mhm,
I woke up yesterday not being in a good emotional place, and
Hmm.
I realized I could either stay there, I could either feed that wolf, or I
Right.
could, feed a better wolf. And
See, and look how far you've come from, let's say, 5 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago. I don't know how long it's been for you, but 10 years ago, if you would have woken up in that state of mind, how long would you have sat in that state of mind?
well, I have sat in that state of mind, that type of mind for literally
Well,
years.
right. That's what I mean. So I have days like that too, but those, well, it used to be days. Nowadays, thankfully, I've got it narrowed down to where it's literally maybe hours, sometimes even just minutes, which is really
Mhm.
kind of cool.
Yeah,
So my goal is not to, I can't make those disappear because my feelings are my feelings.
right,
If I'm just in a shitty mood, I just am.
right. Yes,
Um, and I want to own it, and I want to, figure myself out, give myself some me time or whatever. Um, but yeah, I used to sit in that place for years at a time, or at least months, sometimes
yeah,
years at a time. I would sit in that place because it didn't occur to me to own my emotions, because when I was having a crappy day, I'd basically just tell myself to walk it off.
right.
Get up,
Yeah,
you got to go to work. You got bills to pay.
just go do it anyway. Yeah,
Exactly. Which
yeah,
there's, there's healthy, goal setting and stuff like that, but
right.
what the way I was doing it was not healthy at the time.
Oh, yeah. There's denial and there's owning. I'm
Exactly.
taking responsibility for.
Exactly.
You know,
I think that's the difference. That's the key right there.
yeah. So, and the interesting thing for me was when I woke up in that really bad mood. It
Hmm.
was only a matter of literally minutes for me to shift from there
Hmm.
to listening to this really great meditation on Insight Timer.
Okay.
Um, and everything just shifted. And part of the meditation was, you can either choose love or you can choose fear. You
Hmm.
can either head in the direction of love or you can head in the direction of fear, or put in whatever other, states apply there.
Right.
But we have a choice,
Yeah.
even if we are right now in this bad place, we can still
Hmm.
choose that we can go to a better place.
So the way I'm hearing what you're saying right now is, you woke up, you were in a bad place emotionally. Thankfully, you've gained the awareness, which is one of the major tools that you've gained over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
And you gave yourself the gift of time. Um, and you basically you just needed some time for you for a second. So
Yeah,
you took the time to meditate, and with that, it worked out. You got yourself out. You owned your emotions. You took the time and you owned your emotions. You owned your time and you owned your emotions.
exactly. So I think we need to bring our conversation about giving to a close. We can only give so much, right?
You cannot pour from an empty cup. It's time to refill. Yeah, we've got other stuff to do today.
Right. But in closing, I want to let's look at a couple of things.
Hmm.
Appropriately enough, on Giving Tuesday, my dictionary.com app sent me the word beneficence, which is the doing of good or act of goodness or kindness, aka charity.
Is that, so beneficiary is related to that?
It is, yes.
Okay.
And one of the things that's cool about the word beneficence is that the bene part of it
Hmm.
is akin to, like in Spanish when you say bien or bueno or whatever. So
Oh,
so good.
so there's good in there. Okay.
And then the FICE part of it comes from the Latin word facere, which means to make or do or construct.
Oh,
So beneficence is making or doing or constructing good things. So
okay.
as we go out and exhibit our beneficence, as we share our gifts with our beneficiaries,
Uh-huh.
then, we're doing good in the world. And
I
we
love
can,
your word of the day. Your words of the day.
so perhaps, is there a way for us to do some homework around being beneficent?
I think that there are times that we probably don't realize what we're giving.
Hmm.
We don't realize how much we're giving of ourselves. So, what if for the homework, what if we took the time each evening to recognize what someone gave us and what we gave someone else?
Nice. I started doing a practice like that a couple weeks ago, where I just, at the end of the day, I've got this 5-minute gratitude journal
Mm-hmm.
where I write down at the end of the day, the good things, the things that could have gone better, and what I'm going to do tomorrow. And also,
Okay.
but I'm finding just that practice of sitting down at the end of the day, just checking in
Mm-hmm.
and checking where I am today is just so powerful, because so often, for whatever reason, and this is a whole other conversation, we tend to notice the negative in our life
Uh-huh.
more than the positive.
Right.
And so by doing this homework of stopping and saying, okay, what have others given to me and what have I given to others? I think that just fills up our emotional bank account,
Yeah.
and helps us to see how rich our story really is.
Yeah. I think that's a good way of owning how you spent the day, the choices you made.
Absolutely.
So, cool.
Okay, so go do your homework, everybody.
Okay.
See how much
Okay.
you've given
My
away
s-
today.
My screen is frozen. Oh, there I am. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Until next week.
Yes. All right.